Child labor.
Oh, it's Nestle.
It is Nestle.
Yeah.
We're all going to hell. Well, just you.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Awesome Hardware. This is a live show. We talk about technology, computers, that kind of thing. We stream every Tuesday evening, usually at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, although we're usually late. And just a big announcement. No, let me do the other stuff first. We drink beer on the show. We occasionally use adult language. Don't watch if you don't like any of that stuff. Okay, that's the hard part. And in case you didn't notice, a little something different this time around.
I'm in an Awesome Hardware sandwich.
I have a beard. I've been growing it out for November.
Yep.
I thought. Oh, and Linus
beard? You mean November?
No shave November.
Not November.
I've heard many different. Goes by many names.
I already lost that one.
I haven't eaten any pistachio so far. Almost caved on a cashew.
That's why I've been eating peanuts.
Yeah, they're
There you
fine.
go.
They're a
It's a
bean.
legume.
They're like a
Technically,
cheating
doesn't count.
imposter nut.
So we're welcoming Linus today. Linus is here in California doing lots of shady stuff, and he happened to be around for the live show, so we figured why not include him. Also, Linus will not be doing the WAN show anymore. He is now exclusively going to be participating in the Awesome Hardware show with us. I called it the Awesome Hardware show, which we
That's great.
explicitly never do.
Is it not called that?
No, it's not. It's just Awesome Hardware.
Maybe it's because we've bridged.
Yeah, I'm the
Great.
show.
It's starting
He's
to.
the show. He brought the show.
So thanks for joining us here for Awesome Hardware, everyone. And
Why? Why did
yeah,
we do this?
Before things go too off the rails, a quick plug for our stores. If you guys want to buy merchandise, it's all real nice. Go to pulsehardware.net for my store. I have many things, like an infant onesie. Look at that. Onesies with no
Very
logo
nice.
on it. Linus Tech Tips does not sell onesies.
We
so
do not.
It's, you know... an
But with all the
area-
COPPA
Just sell 'em,
regulations,
man.
I think
That's
it's
true.
risky.
That is true.
All of our merch, all of our content for adults.
Awesome. Awesome Hardware merch. Currently selling out some of the older designs, and I thought I had my hoodie here, but it's not. Whatever. We've got hoodies now that are nice. I wanted to point out we have these new...
Are you actually showing people this?
Yeah.
Oh, finally.
Yeah,
Okay.
I already...
Okay.
I bounce around a
Just
lot.
Long
It's
stream
quick.
delay.
You gotta stay on top of things. These are tri-blend in navy blue and charcoal gray, so they're kind of a nicer, softer material. So those are real nice. I have a couple of those and they're good. Bitwit.tech/store for Kyle's store.
New designs.
He's also got some new
Fresh
designs.
new designs.
Fresh new designs.
Pick 'em up
the
now.
blue shirt of death.
Microsoft has not sued me yet, so I think it's safe for you guys to wear
Have you
these
seen the
shirts.
blue shirt of death, Linus?
Oh, yeah.
I like
B-side.
it. The color's a little
That's
off.
pretty good.
Well,
Not
that's,
exactly
that's
the
by
same.
design.
Bitwit.tech/store for all of Kyle's stuff. And a big thank you to all you guys who help support our channels and buy merch on the show. And we'll give you a shout out during Kyle's half if you happen to buy stuff.
That's right.
Where the hell's my store?
LTT store. LTT.
Where
I can't
is
even
your
say
store?
that fast.
LTT?
LTTstore.com.
LTTstore.com to
We
buy
got
Linus
shirts like
stuff.
this. This is a
Look at that.
GPU.
Is that? I was looking at your shirt all day today. I couldn't figure it
okay.
out.
It's GPU inspired. So here's PCI.
I thought it was
Express.
Hal from Space Odyssey.
It's kind of inspired by a lot of things. It's meant to be wearable in public.
It's quite trippy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
It's hard to do with a tech shirt.
I
Right?
do like shirts that you can wear in
A shirt
public.
that the wife won't get mad at you for wearing to dinner.
yeah, it doesn't work that way with the underwear though. Not
Oh,
many of
God,
the
here we
wives
go.
are a huge fan of
Here we
the Linus Tech Tips waistband there. You know.
Why not?
I don't know.
I was wearing a pair of mine the other day, and Wifey Sauce was like, "They actually make some pretty good underwear." And I was like, "Don't say Linus looks good on me."
There's something to be said for like taking the time to, you know, check out your merch and make sure you're getting good stuff before you slap your brand on it and sell it to people.
Yep.
Or slap it on your junk.
So yeah, I have also heard positive things about the Linus Tech Tips underwear.
Would you like some?
You know, I was offered some at LTX and I declined.
Any regrets?
So
I did not.
well, everyone speaks so highly of them. I'm kind of thinking maybe, but I don't usually wear the boxer briefs. I usually go straight boxers.
All right. All
I'll
right.
have airflow down there.
We'll work
It's
on
a lot
it
of,
for
it's
you.
a lot of freedom in that region.
Yeah. All right. We do have some tech news to talk about here on my half of the show. I even have some notes, which is not always a thing.
Wow.
So hopefully we can talk about it and it sounds like we're halfway intelligent. Starting off with Google Stadia.
Stadia? Stadia?
Stadia?
Stadia, yeah.
Stadia.
Stadia. We
Okay, Mario.
That's how we pronounced it when they first brought it up
Really?
on the show, because we couldn't figure
It's
it
a
out.
Stadia.
Stadia.
Oh yeah, that's right. We did
Yeah.
have that whole debate. That was
All these
fun.
throwbacks I keep throwing out there, you just over your head. All right, that's fine. All right, so Google Stadia is currently on a sort of a soft launch for reviewers and stuff like that. So Gene Park did a write-up here on the Washington Post, and he's covering quite a few different issues and concerns and things that make it good and things that make it not so good. If you guys aren't familiar with what Google Stadia is, basically it's like the game runs on a server somewhere, you play the game on your cell phone or on any device that basically can have a Chromecast Ultra connected to it. Oh.
Sorry, I just want to
Hopefully we sound
participate
good.
in the Twitch chat, so my phone volume was up.
Okay, I appreciate that. So yeah, what's the deal? We've been very skeptical of it because any of the remote play services that I've tried out in the past simply suffer from too many like physical logistical issues, like the fact that there's distance between you and the thing that's running your game, so it introduces latency. So it takes away a lot of the effectiveness for anything that you're going to play that's fast-paced, like an FPS or other fast-paced games that require speed and accuracy. Anyway, when played on a browser or an LCD 4K TV, folks at Washington Post experienced horrendous latency. They pinged it at like 650 milliseconds,
Ouch.
which is really bad. This was for single-player and multiplayer games. According to the article, it took a cinematic game like Shadow of the Tomb Raider and made it feel like an avant-garde college grad project replete with buggy, quick cuts. Trying to do precision shots in games like Destiny 2 was impossible. Even some games, just walking in a straight line was very difficult.
Are these very good gamers? Because walking a straight line is pretty easy. You just put the thumbstick and it's cruise control for cool, you know?
You know, as you've experienced lately, it helps to have a wide range of gamers to test something out with, right? Like for the video you guys have going up on Thursday, right? Sorry, just plug in your
It's going to be
channels.
great. Shroud collab.
I'm actually looking forward to the final cut of that and how it all came together. Anyway, back to the point though, which is if you can't walk in a straight line, obviously that's going to be difficult in games. On the plus side, I guess, these problems were experienced exclusively while playing Stadia via the Chromecast Ultra, which Google has been sending out Founders or Premier Edition setups for reviewers to take a look at. So that is something they're expected to be able to play it on, but obviously that's something that needs some work right now because 650 millisecond latency is not good.
For those keeping score at home, that's over half a second.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah, that's horrible. But they also tried it on a phone, and in that case, it was a much different story. Playing Destiny 2 in 60 FPS on a Google Pixel 3 AXL over Wi-Fi connection, almost no blurriness, barely any latency. Images were fast and sharp on the phone's 2160 by 1080 screen. So, why is it so much better of an experience on the phone? When this is Google's service, and you would think they would make it work with their Chromecast. I don't know, but it does make you consider the possibilities of like what this might actually be useful for. It is a $10 a month service to start out. There are different packages you can purchase. They come with various different hardware setups, including a Chromecast Ultra and whatnot. It should be noted that they did have a decent setup for testing. They tested on the home internet, Gene's home internet, which he says has about 45 to 55 megabits per second download speed. Google suggests 35 megabits for 60 FPS 4K, which is a pretty decent connection. And then obviously if you're playing a game remotely, then it brings in other concerns to mind besides latency, like is it eating up all my data if you have a data cap or something like that. So obviously there's a lot of potential things that make Stadia less appealing, and that's probably why. I haven't been drawn to it very much. I don't think I've really been too interested in it, but there's lots of news on it right now. So they did say that this was, I believe, Sunday when they initially started it out, or maybe Monday. But by Monday evening, some of the stuttering and performance issues had improved. They were able to test 6 titles before the Tuesday launch: Destiny 2, Red Dead Redemption 2, Mortal Kombat 11, Guilt, and Kine. Again, that Stadia Pro subscription is $10 a month. It seems like Google is trying to push this a little bit more because they sort of did a last-minute expansion of the launch lineup of games available from 12 to 22 games. But again, there's certain things about it like that kind of suck. Like, you pay for a subscription for the service, but you still have to buy individual games sometimes. Like Red Dead Redemption 2, for example, does not come included with the cost of that subscription.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, so certain titles you might have to pay extra for.
Is it full price extra, or is it like at a discounted rate?
That is not made clear. I would hope it would be discounted, but who knows? I don't know. I mean, if they're trying to sell to people who don't have a console or a computer to game on at all, then maybe they would expect them to pay full price because you're renting the hardware, and so you should still have to pay for the software, the game, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Other bad things about it, like not that we're really selling Stadia on you or anything like that, games do not feature graphical options offered on PC releases. So
that makes sense, though.
You can't toggle resolutions, visual or texture effects or frames per second.
I mean, that's just typical console compromises.
Typical console compromises. I imagine that would also help them when they're doing load balancing for servers and stuff like that, make sure that any given user is staying within a set envelope of the amount of processing and graphics that they're actually consuming on the server side. So yeah, makes sense, but also something that you don't get with the service that you would get if you were playing it on a full-fledged PC or something like that. Conclusions. They said it feels a bit like reviewing YouTube. The content isn't quite there yet, and the service isn't great either. The forward review on the Premier Edition of Google Stadia 2019, it's not worth it.
Doesn't sound like it is.
Which that's kind of the impression that we got as well.
I have a special third guest for us.
Oh, well.
Wow.
Has this guest been vetted and approved?
One Riley Murdoch from Linus Media Group actually has a Founders Edition.
Hi, this is Riley speaking.
Hey, Riles!
Hey!
So you've got your hands on...
I'm accepting telemarketing calls right now.
Riley's at home, so we're not going to keep him for very long.
Would you like to buy an Xbox?
Okay, so Riley, you actually have your hands on a Founders Edition of the Stadia, right?
Yeah, we got one at the office.
Did you give it a try today?
I updated the lower thirds for
I did. But I tried it on desktop with mouse and keyboard and played a bit with the Chromecast Ultra and the controller and on my phone as well. Yeah, it was pretty good. I was actually pretty impressed.
Oh.
I got really worried because I saw some videos of people having variable latency issues where they would press the button and in 1 second the latency would be like null and then another second there would be like a ton of latency. But I did not experience that.
Okay, now something to note is we have like God tier internet at the office. Were you using this exclusively at the office?
Yeah, I've only tried it at the office so far. I was going to try it a bit this evening at my home.
We need the home experience, Riley.
Call us back in half an hour.
But what this does tell us, at least, is that if you have a great consistent connection to Google's data center, there is a chance that the experience can be pretty good then.
True, but this is what I was kind of confused about because the Washington Post is the outlet that I saw have those specific variable latency issues, and they said that they tried it in a bunch of different scenarios in like good internet and bad internet, and the issues persisted. So I wonder if that was kind of like a launch day bug on Stadia's side. But I mean, you're right. We have God tier internet, so it might just be that like Washington Post internet sucks.
We have what is effectively a straight line of fiber to Vanix, which is peered directly to Google. So like
I love Vanix.
It's not that representative of the average person's internet. So yeah, I think that. So did you take it home with you tonight?
Well, I mean, I have the login. I can just play with mouse and keyboard. I didn't bring that controller home, no.
Of course,
But,
right.
yeah,
Stadia.
I'm gonna try it.
So you can take your console.
Property, Linus.
Can take your console with you and eat it too.
Exactly.
All right.
Wow.
Cool.
Growth
Thanks,
of the
Riley.
future. Hey, no problem. See you later.
Bye, Riley.
All right. I did the lower thirds, which is only partially accurate. We did have someone on the phone.
Yeah, that was Riley from my team at Linus Tech Tips. So he mostly handles TechLinked. He also does some of our consumer electronics reviews. So obviously he's working on our coverage of the Google Stadia game console, which is not up at embargo, but hey, we got the unit yesterday, so.
So if you can deal with all of the crap that we said that sucks about it, if all of that stuff is like, I don't care that much about that and I'd rather just pay $10 a month for a service like this.
And you have great internet.
And you have great internet, then maybe you're in a little group that might be interested in Stadia, I suppose.
My main issue here is just that Project X Cloud is coming. So yeah, Google might be not even first to market because it's not like NVIDIA's GeForce Now doesn't already exist. But what Google has is the hardware-less solution before anyone else really has anything. Because it's not like PlayStation Now didn't exist before, whatever they called it. But the problem was that you needed PlayStation-approved hardware. You needed Sony's controller. NVIDIA has GeForce Now, but in the past, that was limited to Shield devices. Like, it was kind of locked down. So that's what they have now. But I think Microsoft is going to come in with Project xCloud. We don't know how affordable the diskless Xbox is going to be exactly. Do we yet?
I don't think it's been.
I don't think we have pricing for it yet. So if that thing's affordable to the point where I can buy a diskless Xbox for like $100 or something, like less than a year of what I would spend on Stadia, and then there's no ongoing hardware cost, I think it's going to be really hard for them to compete because they thought, even days ago, they thought they were going to launch with 10 titles. Like, please. I mean, you could make the argument, yeah, okay, that's 10 titles. How long is it going to take you to play 10 games? Give us some time to get some more games out. Not everybody likes every genre of games.
Yeah.
Like, realistically, even looking at the, I think, 20 or so titles that they have now, do we have a list of that?
It wasn't listed in this story, but...
Launch Stadia titles. So let's bring this up. What do we got here? We got, oh, lordy. Control F, Titan. Okay, here we go. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I'm not into Assassin's Creed. Destiny 2, The Collection. Oh, okay, sure. Guilt? Never even heard of it. Just Dance 2020? Please. Kine? Never heard of it. Mortal Kombat 11? Sure, maybe. Rise of the Tomb Raider, if you haven't played that already. Red Dead Redemption 2. All right, cool. So there's one game that I want to play.
That you have to pay separately for, apparently.
That I then have to buy separately anyway.
Yeah.
Samurai Showdown, okay.
That's included with the Stadia
Shadow
Pro
of the Tomb Raider. Okay, that's a little more like, excuse me, hold on a second. 3 of the original 12 games were Tomb Raider games, which is basically the same game 3 times.
That's just a quarter of
That's
the games.
one game.
Yeah.
So a quarter of the games are Tomb Raider. And then they added a bunch more. So there's Thumper, whatever that is. Now we've got Attack on Titan Final Battle. Never heard of that. Farming Simulator 2019. Okay, that's a niche. Final Fantasy 15. When's the last time a Final Fantasy game was any good?
Are you trying to say that Farming Simulator does not have broad universal appeal?
Football Manager 2020. That's a big game, for sure.
Is it really?
Grid 20... Are you joking?
Facetious?
Are you actually joking right now? Okay, Football Manager...
That's a big game?
Football Manager Revenue 2018.
Okay.
Okay, let's have a look
Sure.
at this. Let's have a look here.
Have you ever played it?
No.
Okay.
No, not my thing.
The sports games have like a whole audience that I feel
Right.
like we don't talk to.
But I feel it's very niche at the same time.
Football
it's not-
Manager hits 1 million sales for the 5th year running, but it's the microtransactions is my understanding. Like Football Manager, my understanding is that it is an obscene amount of revenue
Really?
on this game. Yeah, don't
Look,
maybe
there's probably
how
like
much
no
do
game like
people
it.
spend playing like Final Fantasy Football and all those other types of things like that?
Did you say Final Fantasy Football?
I said fantasy football.
I would play
Final
that
Fantasy
game.
Football.
That sounds pretty
Okay, like
badass, though.
Cloud
That's a
Strife
great
as
idea.
quarterback, and we've got frickin' Kefka as the referee.
Use
You're
the-
fouls everywhere. You're all dead. Poison in the water. So we got Metro Exodus, NBA 2K20, sure, Rage 2, Trials Rising, Wolfenstein Youngblood. So there's some decent games in there. I think we can all agree on that. But we're not all going to agree on what the decent games are. You guys are probably sitting there at home going,
Right.
Linus, what the heck are you talking about? Kine's a great game. Cool, but we don't see eye to eye. So my point is, even if you got 22 games, you've got you're lucky to have a half a dozen that any one person is going to be interested in, and that's really hard to justify.
This is like when you go on a flight and they're like, we've got free in-flight entertainment for you guys. We've got
Oh, yeah.
20 different movies, and you're interested in maybe 2 of them.
Yes.
And maybe there's a couple premium ones that you have to pay extra
And it's a
for.
1 month long flight. We don't know how long this flight is before there's going to be more content, actually.
Then you end up watching like the foreign language film with the subtitles, and you find it's actually really good, and you end up crying.
Yeah.
That's what happens to me usually.
You know what? The
Here's-
Chinese cop movies.
Oh yeah, those are
good.
I love them.
They're intense.
They're so intense. And there's always like drug
good-
lords and really good
Martial
fighting.
arts and
Yeah, I
stuff.
love
Yeah.
it. It's great.
Okay,
Jackie Chan.
here's another aspect of this that we haven't talked about. I wanted
Yeah.
to mention real quick, then we can move on. Something else it can do that maybe you hadn't considered before. Destiny 2 can cross-save between PlayStation 4 and Stadia.
If I have a PlayStation 4, why do I give 2 hoots about the Stadia version?
Because if you play it all the time at home on PlayStation 4,
Take
and
it on the
maybe
go.
it's a game that has, I don't know that much about Destiny 2, forgive me, but there's lots of games that have like repetitive daily quests, little things that you can do here and there. If you could pull up the game that you play a lot on your phone or something while you're on the go and play a little bit, not saying like get into a firefight or something like that, but play a little bit, that might be worth it for some people.
I think that makes sense.
I mean, I've seen dumber microtransactions.
Destiny 2 is also free.
Not arguing that.
That's true.
But I
All
think
right.
there's something to be said about being able to take your game with you on the go and play it elsewhere. Even if you have a PC, if you have a AAA console or whatever, I mean, there's a reason why the Nintendo Switch is so popular.
Sure, but most of these are single-player titles that by the time you finish them, they're kind of finished.
Yeah, but I mean, you finish one, you start playing another one. I mean,
And you just you have to have it with you on the go. It's not like you're going to be playing
Everyone has their
Stadia on
phone.
the bus. 5G is not a thing yet.
I mean, everyone's got a phone on them though at all times. And if,
You sound like
assuming that-
Blizzard.
You guys
Do I have a phone?
That's a bold allegation.
Don't you have a phone?
Yeah,
That's a bold claim.
Please.
Don't call anyone
fighting
Blizzard unless you
words.
hate them.
All right, let's move on. Next up, Motorola Razr. That's been sort of teased. It's coming out soon. We don't talk about phones too much, but I think Linus has more experience with that than we do.
Yeah, sure.
So I thought we'd get some feedback here since you actually got to play with like the Galaxy Fold and stuff.
Yeah, I
point.
love the Galaxy Fold. Honestly,
Okay.
the only reason I'm not using it in this moment
Really?
is because I've actually kind of come around to the stories feature on YouTube.
Okay.
Because it's one way to get your channel promoted to people who are not already subscribed to it, because Google is like putting stories in people's faces
Yeah.
like
And-
this. They're like,
and-
"Oh, stories! You want to see
more
stories? You
stories.
like to see stories?"
You like stories, right?
So I've been trying to support that feature, and my Fold doesn't work. Like the version of the YouTube app that loads onto my Fold doesn't have the stories feature,
Nah.
and both Samsung and YouTube say, well, it should. And I say, well, here's a screenshot. It sure as heck doesn't. Here's a screenshot. It's certainly updated. I got an email back from Samsung today, actually. Well, it should work, and no, we don't have another Fold we can send you to try it out. So I on this trip, I've been posting a lot of stories, so I'm actually using my Note 9 right now. Anyway, this thing's a joke.
Joke. That's okay. You haven't even tried it yet.
I don't need to.
How
Why do I
Four
need to
letter
try
review
it?
from Linus. This thing's a
This
joke.
thing's a joke.
Yeah, I don't understand who the target consumer is for this thing, because it's the size of a normal phone, except that it's $1,500 for like mid-tier last generation
It's
hardware.
$1,500.
It's
Yeah.
$1,500 US, like real dollars. And it's got a
So-
Snapdragon 710 in it.
Oh my god.
Like, please,
Just
please.
banking on the nostalgic hype.
The problem is that what nostalgia?
people-
What nostalgia? Motorola is owned by like freaking Lenovo now.
Nostalgia for the Razr phone.
So it's not
For
the
the Razr,
same.
the fact
for
that it's a
Razr
Razr.
the
phone.
Razr phone.
gonna be some
last
Oh,
stuff
time-
that
sorry. I thought you meant the Razr gaming
No,
phone.
the
from-
Razr.
Yeah, okay.
The Motorola Razr, last produced in 2004. Flip phone. It was like the hot phone to have prior to iPhone coming out and being
Literally
the
everyone
smartphone.
had one.
Yeah, and it's got this flippy thing, and it's really small. It fits in your pocket. I didn't have one because I didn't spend money on things at that point. I still rarely do, but yeah. So you said what I was planning to say towards the end of this, which is that seems to be like a hype machine launch aimed at people who have nostalgia for that phone, selling them a phone that's similar to that in many respects. It's got the folding screen, but it also has stuff that you have to do with the folding screen, like a plastic OLED display with hard plastic coating on top.
Okay, look.
because it can't bend.
They're gonna sell a shed load of them, and the reason is that the Galaxy Fold, okay, while I'm daily driving it, is absolutely a head turner. It's a conversation starter, and if I was the kind of person for whom a phone is as much a fashion accessory as it is a communication device, where $1,500 is not a ton of money to me, but I just kind of want something that is very traditionally usable, that's kind of like the phone I already have, but like cooler, I'm gonna buy it. That person goes ahead and buys this, because it is $500 cheaper than the Galaxy Fold if all you want is the sex appeal of like,
Folding
but can your phone
screen.
do this? Boom.
The Galaxy Fold is $2,000.
The Galaxy Fold is $2,000.
Jesus.
And this one is $1,500. So I guess it's like the value head turner phone. If you don't want to like
Value head
learn, a new way of using a device, if you don't want to change any of your habits whatsoever, you pull this out of your pocket, you whip it open, and it's a normal phone. If that's your selling point, sure, I guess so. But the issue to me is that folding phones, in my mind, are all about carrying a larger screen than you otherwise could in a form factor that wasn't before possible. And that's not what this does, because it's a form factor we already had. There's my issue with it. And that's why, from like a tech head, specs are king kind of perspective, this thing makes absolutely no sense. But I'm also not going to imagine for a moment that they aren't going to ship a butt ton of them. And then in traditional, Motorola hot potato bought and sold by everyone and their dog over the last 5 years fashion, support for it is going to fall off a cliff. It's going to be lucky if it gets Android 11, let alone Android 12. And it's going to be forgotten in the dustbin of history. One last wheezing breath out of the, rotting lungs of what was left of the Motorola brand.
It seems like more of a flash in the pan than something that's here to stay. And I think that it'll get that initial wave of interest, but it's going to die off really quickly.
That's what I think.
At the end of the day, people who bought it probably wouldn't buy it again.
Well, the camera's going to suck. And I said this on the WAN show when we discussed it, because the thing about that demographic is the same demographic that cares about shallow shit, like how cool my phone flips out, is the same demographic that cares about shallow shit, like... Do you guys swear on this show?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's why we did the warning.
Like, taking my selfies in the club.
Instagram influencers.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's your problem, is you've got these two opposed goals of this demographic, and you can only be one and not the other. So ultimately, they're not going to be happy with it. They're not going to buy the Razr Phone 2. So you're done. You're already done. And when it's not ultimately that successful, then you drop support for it, et cetera, et cetera. It's a foregone conclusion at this point.
Yeah. This is all good to know because I'm still using my original Pixel XL, which I still love, and I'm still extremely, extremely happy with.
How's that headphone jack treating you?
It's good. I can just plug in headphones to it and use them.
How about that?
I have one too.
They never run out of
Samsung
batteries.
Galaxy S10 Plus, headphone
run out
jack,
of batteries.
micro SD card. Booyah.
But have you tried
Oh, get the hell out with your fucking...
AirPods Pros?
Jesus Christ.
Have you tried them?
Allow me.
I've heard they look slightly less like tampons dangling.
Let me just
from
put
your
them
ears.
in.
That's the other ear.
See, already not intuitive.
What a noob.
Already not intuitive.
Obviously. That's
Oh wait, I'm listening to us.
Yep. So hold on. Wait for that sound cancellation to kick in.
What am I waiting for?
Exactly.
They're fairly noise canceling as well.
So that you're saying they have good noise cancellation?
I'm saying I wear these when I'm not even listening to anything because it takes a bit of the edge off the chaos of my household.
Oh.
I wear them when I want to focus on anything. Unlike a lot of the noise canceling headphones that I've used, I find that there's not much kind of noise pressure.
There's a weird popping.
A weird popping.
A weird popping in the left ear. I don't know if it's... We're definitely not clipping, but there's a kind of a crackle pop every maybe 10 seconds. It's like a... It almost sounds like someone's tapping the mic.
Oh, there's a weird popping right now. Yeah, no, they're not supposed to do that. That's Apple.
Well, this is us, right?
It's like we've sussed out a major issue with the iPod Pros.
They'll fix it in a firmware update.
So much for that.
Okay. So yeah, my whole point of bringing up the story was because I've only barely heard about this, hadn't read up too many details. At some point, I got to replace my Pixel XL. I'm still kind of on the hunt for like the good phone that's going to replace it. Galaxy S10 was kind of close.
I'm very happy with it so far. You gave a pretty negative review on it, Linus, but...
I don't like the bullet hole display. Bullet wound display,
it doesn't bother me, you know? I think my eyes are fixated on other things, and it kind of fades into the background. I don't really ever notice it.
It's literally in the foreground.
Really?
It quite literally is in the foreground.
But it blends in with the rest of your noti bar,
Yeah,
so
really
it's
doesn't.
like... It
I'll
does.
open up a web browser. How much does it blend in now?
It's still in the same axis. It's still in the same axis. I mean, you're losing literally 2 millimeters.
It is about as evil as the Axis. I'm glad that you made that comparison.
Oh,
Those are just fighting words.
Is that a World War II?
You're just being
That's
picky.
a long time ago. Anyway, so I shouldn't get this phone. All right, good.
Yeah, that's
That's
question
fine.
has been answered.
You'd probably like it.
yeah, you influencer. For all the selfies you take.
Okay, so the I word. Can we discuss that? So a lot of influencers actually, to me, have said that they actually find the word quite offensive.
That's what we've turned it into, I think.
Yeah. So can I say something, or can I propose something? I think it's okay for me to use the I word to describe another person because I also get the I word used about me.
Right.
So is this kind of like the South Park episode where Mr. Garrison is gay and can use the F word, but like not the 4-letter F word, the 3-letter one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So in that way, am I allowed to use that word? Do you think that's okay?
The F word?
I have had fellow YouTube creators, actually someone you guys know, get quite upset with me for using that word to describe them.
Really?
But the way that I see it is, the reality of it is, what the word actually means is one who influences.
Yeah,
so whether
exactly.
you consider yourself to be media or Instagram famous or whatever the case may be, one who influences is by definition an influencer, and unfortunately we lack a better word to describe ourselves. So even though it's one of those words that like kind of has an icky subtext to it, I think I should be allowed to use it.
I agree. I think influencer is such a broad term now, but it's also used to describe within that large group of people that it represents.
A particularly cancerous subset.
There's a lot of toxicity as in terms of influencers and very vapid, just stupid people. And so to be associated with them with that label can be a turnoff to a lot of people, understandably so. But I think we have to sort of detach ourselves from that small group of people encompassing or defining that word. It's a more broad term, and I think people think of the worst case scenario of what that means.
The problem I have with it is that I feel like it implies intent. Like, if someone's an influencer, I feel like it makes it seem like they want to influence people.
Have you ever recommended a product?
Yes.
Then it's your intent to influence.
Yeah, I mean,
Period.
Right, because that's the thing. That is true, Paul. But you can influence for good, or you could influence for bad.
That's right.
Yes,
I would say.
So I would agree. Like, you can use the word, you can say whatever you want, but usually when the word is used for me or applied to me, I usually say
there's a dirty subtext.
I prefer not to call myself an influencer.
Yep. Sure.
Because I'd like to consider that that's not my primary goal.
And you can prefer it all you want, but I'm going to call you one.
I know, and it's a free countries, U.S. and Canada, so you're able to do that, and I have to deal with it however I can.
Oh man, free country. I mean, do we want to open up that? I thought this was a hardware show because we got this COPPA stuff to discuss. Sorry, let's talk about Zen 3.
We're going to get to that.
Talk about Zen 3.
All right, we got Zen 3 first.
All right, you can put that back up there. You put that back up there. All right.
Put it back.
Here's a WCCF Tech article. This is from Hassan.
Sure.
AMD has announced Zen 3.
Hassan, the influencer.
Yes.
Hassan the influencer.
He's a very significant influencer, well known online. Zen 3 has been talked about, discussed, and everything. There's a little bit more further details on it, a bit more clear announcements about what Zen 3 is, some of the details surrounding it. Thought we'd share that with you guys today. WCCF Tech articles linked in the description as well as all of the articles we're discussing today. This is sourced from AMD Senior Vice President Forrest Norrod. Norrod? NORAD?
No.
Norrod.
I'm pretty sure it's NORAD.
I like NORAD.
You know, like the what is that? Yeah, that thing.
Like the absence of water cooling. NORAD.
Anyway, he did an interview with The Street, which is where the new information of this comes from. So Zen 3, this is going to be the successor to Zen 2. Zen 2 is what we got right now. It's what all the AMD 3000 series Ryzen processors are based on, as well as the new Threadripper 3 stuff that's coming out real soon. Zen 3 is still going to be 7 nanometer, but it's 7 nanometer plus. They've added a plus.
Plus, it's much
Hopefully
better,
they won't
right?
add as many pluses as they did with 14 nanometer.
Intel started that.
Highly optimized.
Well, no, there's a juicy part at the end here that we're going to get to. All right, so first off, there's some information from TSMC, who actually is the manufacturer that develops the machines that make all the processors and everything. If AMD takes advantage of these advantages, I wrote that way.
Eloquent.
They would realize a density boost of up to 20% from 7 nanometer to 7 nanometer plus, as well as having 10% better power efficiency. So that's pretty impressive, considering you're not talking about a process shrink, you're just talking about an improvement. There are also further details that we know about 7 nanometer plus, which are from what's been revealed from EPIC Milan, the 7 nanometer plus based server processors that AMD is also working on that side. 7 nanometer plus Zen 3 cores are going to have up to 64 cores and 128 threads. Zen 3, is that what they talk about, the chiplets, possibly? Although that's a lot of cores for a single chiplet.
No, they're not talking about chiplets.
Probably
There.
the whole.
Okay,
No, I
that's
think
what the entire process.
That would be
processor.
Threadrippers or Epic Milan.
So if anyway, that would be potentially 16 cores per chiplet though if they're going with the same layout.
NORAD is the base under Mount Cheyenne, according to one of our Twitch commenters.
Yes, that's what we were referring to. Kind of a badass last name. Anyway, it's still pin compatible with the SP3 socket. TDP between 120 and 225 watts. Still has PCI Express Gen 4 support, DDR4 support, and they're expected to launch in 2020. Cadence of launches when it comes to server stuff, enterprise stuff, and mainstream stuff, it tends to go back and forth. But with AMD, the server stuff has been coming first, so it's kind of a good way to derive some information about what the mainstream stuff is based on. Because honestly, they've all got the same sauce at the core level. So it's cool to kind of suss out some details from Epic announcements. So from the interview specifically with Forrest, they said Zen 3 will be built from the ground up. So it's not going to be an iteration of Zen 2. They're completely redesigning on the node, and I thought that was interesting. Which means, and apparently confirmed in the interview, AMD is going to be following what was formerly Intel's tick-tock cadence of launches. Tick is a new process node with similar CPU microarchitecture. A tock is brand new chip architecture, but with similar or improved process node. So that's pretty cool. If you guys aren't familiar with TikTok, anyone who's...
It's not a social media site.
Yeah, it's not as... I mean,
Well,
it is. But
Well,
TikTok, in
we're
terms of the way Intel did it, so back in the mid-2000s, 2005, 2006, 2007... Yeah, we're going to little nostalgic, right? Mid-2000s, AMD did really good. They came out with like dual-core processors, and they did a lot of cool stuff
64-bit, integrated memory controller.
Integrated IMC.
Yeah, you attend any AMD event, they love reminding you of all
They
that
do.
stuff. Remember when we were cool?
And
We're cool again, like that.
Especially like 4 or 5 years ago when they didn't have Ryzen or anything. They're like, hey, remember back then? But yeah, AMD had $1,000 processors. And then Intel was like, hey, we should do something about this. Intel started TikTok. Every year, they would either do a process shrink or they would do a redesign of the CPU microarchitecture. And they did that, like TikTok back and forth.
Like clockwork.
2008, 2009, 2010, 2011. And by 2010, 2011, they were coming out with Sandy Bridge.
Yep.
And they were destroying what AMD had going.
So far ahead of it.
Yeah, and AMD had nothing to answer, and I think that had more to do with stuff going on with AMD as a company and everything. But point being, it's such an interesting flip. Just over the past couple of years, what's happened with AMD and Intel, and the recommendations that people are making right now with what's available when it comes to the processor market, and this seems to be like even a continuation of that transition. And I don't know, like for me, I'm looking at this like, all right, we're on 7 nanometer right now. How long can they go TikTok? Because how much can they shrink down?
Something we need to be really careful of here is giving AMD too much credit for the comeback. You got to remember, guys, it's not like AMD's own fab business survived. They had to sell it. It became Global Foundries. Global Foundries isn't even competing anymore, even as an independent chip fab, which, if TSMC is anything to go by, can be a pretty lucrative business as long as you execute. So it is great that AMD is able to ship new process nodes on a regular basis here. But remember, too, that that's thanks to their partners. I mean, if TSMC stumbles, we now have almost every major player that is going to stumble alongside them. I mean, remember, one of the last times that they did stumble on their high-performance strengths was back when we were stuck with what node were we stuck on? Was it 28 nanometer when we had basically no new GPUs for 2 years?
28 or 32.
I think it was 28.
Yeah.
Where it basically came down to AMD not releasing a new graphics card for an unprecedented span. They just kept rebranding the 7970.
They made new names, which is kind of the same.
Yeah, or sorry, was it I forget which one they kept rebranding, the 5970, it doesn't matter. The point is, they just kept rebranding graphics cards, and NVIDIA did some really innovative things in that time in order to advance performance a little bit, but it wasn't like we were used to. So now, what we're looking at is it's going to be pretty much high-performance computing as a whole that is going to stall if TSMC misses a shrink here. So it's something we should just be aware of. AMD has done really well. They have partnered with the right partners. They have executed on their strategy. They have redesigned at a time when Intel, from all we can tell based on publicly available information, has been completely asleep at the wheel and without Tesla Autopilot. So they did a lot of things well, but we also have to be careful not to give them too much credit, because without that partnership and without TSMC hitting their targets, that roadmap that AMD has could fall apart at no fault of their own.
Well, I just want to give credit to somebody, and I feel like AMD
and TSMC and their wonderful partnership and great teamwork and execution.
Good job, guys.
So many parts involved.
Kyle, anything to add here?
Nope.
All right, let's talk about COPPA. COPPA.
COPPA.
COPPA.
I would say COPPA. There's two P's.
COPPA.
There's one P. I'd say COPPA.
COPPA. COPPA. All right, so you guys may have heard a little bit about this. I guess it depends on how closely you watch YouTube and YouTube News and people who make YouTube and whether or not they're complaining about this. But back on September 4th of this year, a settlement was reached in a lawsuit brought against YouTube by the state of New York and the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission here in the United States. YouTube was ordered to pay $170 million for violating the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act of 1998.
That'll all come out of our paycheck.
Did we even have internet in 1998?
Yes, we did.
Not good internet.
Yeah, I was on dial-up.
I was there.
Remember it fondly. Just had to use one of the tin cans. No. Anyway, so there's a lot going on here, right? Because there is the FTC's fine of YouTube. There's how YouTube has handled it. There's how YouTube kind of handles stuff in general, because they are a site that has aggregate amounts of content being fed constantly by a huge variety of people from around the world. And they sort of ride the fence between staying within the legal bounds and having a Wild West open free range for anyone to upload any content that they might want to upload. Because, and then this is my speculation, but I think because people tend to try to make money however they possibly can, and because YouTube has a lot of automated services, there is a lot of children's content that was getting flagged, that was causing controversy, that was popping up because people were like, hey, I took my 4-year-old and I sat them down to watch YouTube and I played this family-friendly child's video, and then I left them there for an hour and a half so I could go drink some whiskey or whatever the heck. Come back and suddenly they're watching some crazy content with, sexually suggestive or whatever, and it's still cartoons or something like that. And do we talk about this at all? I don't know. In the past year or two, it's like really weird, random animated shows that people put up there, and it's hard to tell whether someone's actually putting this together or whether it's some like software that's just assembling these so that they can be uploaded to try to gain as many views as possible.
Hold on a minute, because I don't think the COPPA ruling and any of the action that they've taken is about inappropriate children's content.
I don't think it's specifically about that. But the impression I've gotten is that they are trying to prevent that. They're trying to prevent people from taking advantage of children who might have lesser faculties when it comes to discretion and what they're watching and whether or not it's good for them to be watching or not. And it does seem, based on just what I've read and my dealings with YouTube and internets and everything, that there's a fair amount of people who aren't happy about the fact that there's a decent amount of content on YouTube that is specifically aimed at children, which is not necessarily what you would call child-friendly. There's a whole other stuff, but like I said, there's various aspects of this story, and I tried to say like that's part of my speculation about it. So, more to the point, YouTube has been fined a massive amount of money by the FTC.
175 million, I think?
$170 million.
170 million, sorry.
So they have now taken a bunch of new rules that are derived specifically from COPPA, and they've basically said anyone who's creating kids content that's aimed at kids on YouTube must comply with these rules. Some people have created video responses about this, saying that it's bad because the settlement calls for YouTube to stop collecting data on or aiming targeted ads at child viewers, which
Is the law.
if you're a parent, you're like, yes, I don't want anyone specifically targeting some, you know,
Kid.
like marketing can be really, really deceptive and very manipulative, and like they can do, like especially the huge ad agencies, they can do some crazy stuff when it comes to manipulative ads, especially when it comes to children. So, like, you know, as a parent, I probably wouldn't want my kids watching some random nonsense like that. That said, there are people who make content for children on YouTube that's perfectly legitimate, perfectly fine, who make perfectly family-friendly stuff. Family-friendly content is one of the big money makers on YouTube. If your channel is in that little group of, hey, this is okay for families, you can make a lot of money doing that. So,
Do you consider yourself a parent?
yes.
Because I hadn't really noticed you there.
Really?
Wait, what?
I didn't think you were very apparent.
Oh God. Did you really?
Sorry, I should have picked up on that. That was a dad joke. I'm still working on that, but thank you.
You're clearly a parent
Thank you.
with those jokes.
Thank you for that contribution, Linus.
I'm dead center apparent.
So, now that that's completely derailed my train of thought, I think there are two sides to this right now. So if we're talking specifically about people who are trying to make content aimed at kids on YouTube, I think there's, you know, a group of people who are doing the right thing and who are making family-friendly content and maybe making a decent living at that as well, because you can do that on YouTube if you're able to gather a decent following and get reasonable views on your content. I think there's also a group of people who are trying to make money off of kids watching YouTube as much as they can, and they don't care about the content, and they're completely unscrupulous about how they go about creating that. And that's probably the group of people that this would possibly be effective in deterring, because if they suddenly can't make money from doing that anymore, they're probably going to stop that and move on and try to make money by just stealing money directly from children on the street or something like that.
That sucks.
Be more accurate. But more specifically, what does this mean? All of us who post YouTube videos to YouTube, now if you go into the YouTube Studio, not regular YouTube, because you have to go into YouTube Studio to access this function, you have to choose a thing that says this is meant for children, this is not meant for children. And we all say no, our content is not made for children, because it's not.
Balls.
Because of all the profanity and
Vaginal.
stuff like that.
Belch.
Vaginal fuck.
We also, and I can speak for myself, and I think Linus and Kyle would agree.
Yeah.
I want no part of the restrictions that they are placing on these videos that do say, yes, my content is made for kids.
Yeah, we want our ads as targeted as they can be, because that ultimately reaps a higher CPM for us, the
Right.
creator.
Yes.
What happens if Google deems one of our videos aimed at kids? Like, let's say we do a Fortnite PC build or something like
So
that. and
Google
there's-
doesn't make that call.
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We go and tell
Okay.
them.
Yeah.
For now.
So what? But what happens if? Then how do they enforce it if someone who's actively
Okay.
lying?
So I'd like to jump in with my take on this whole situation, which I haven't actually addressed on my show yet. I call it my COPPA feel.
Okay. I like that. Thank you.
Um,
Wait, before you get into that,
All right, fine.
I just want to go over this list of things that are restricted from
Sure.
those videos that say, yes, my content is aimed for
Sure.
kids.
Okay.
So if you're making content aimed for kids, what you now no longer have access on YouTube, no targeted ads, no comments on your videos, no info cards, no end
Are you
screens.
serious?
Channels producing kids' contents cannot have stories. You can't have the community tab. You cannot have the notification bell. You cannot have your videos added to watch lists or saved to playlists.
Whoa. Oh,
That's
wow.
pretty significant.
That's like half of the
And
channel
anyone who is making legitimate, wholesome content aimed at kids,
is now affected by this.
that
This applies to them.
is a man.
That's a killer.
That's hard.
That's
so
a killer.
I am at the same time incredibly sympathetic for anyone who is making like wholesome, family-friendly content and
Oof.
might be making a living off of it.
That's
But
unbelievable.
at the same time, you know, there's that other side of it of people who are doing that. So
Right.
that said, I am
Yeah.
interested in what Linus says.
So
Wow.
the issue here is that the problem of inappropriate content targeted at kids is, from my take on this, a completely separate issue. One that Google was making the argument that they were addressing by manually manually vetting any content that was making its way into the YouTube Kids app, which is, from YouTube's point of view, the only place where kids can access YouTube. Now,
And that's supposed to be 13 and under, right?
that's right. So in my household, my kids do not have access to regular YouTube, because when I created the Google accounts for my kids, I correctly entered their birth dates, and there is absolutely no way via side loading, via alternate app stores, for me to load the YouTube app onto my kids' phones. So theoretically, through the YouTube Kids app, many of these features were already restricted anyway. And from YouTube's point of view, or more accurately from the FTC's point of view, that was how this was intended to be used by children anyway. And what YouTube is ultimately doing here is leveling the field with traditional media. Now, where I think YouTube and Google made a significant misstep here was in pushing the boundaries. Because really what's a lot of these restrictions, like the inability to target children with ads and collect user data from children, I mean, this law is from 1998. This is not new. Google has known about this for not just years, we're talking about decades.
They've been flaunting it.
So in much I'll get to that. So in much the same way that TV commercials are not allowed to target children directly, they are allowed to target the parents of children, which is, I mean, we could talk for probably another entire show about how valid that loophole is. But basically, what the FTC is doing here is they're saying, yo, hold on a second here. You guys have been skirting these regulations for years when traditional media, who are slowly have their market share being eroded, have had to play by these rules for all these years. What we're effectively doing here is leveling the playing field. And you know what? It's on you that you guys allowed this, not just allowed this Wild West behavior to go on for so long, but actually actively encouraged it. So YouTube touted themselves, Google pitched themselves to brands as a safe place to market to children when they were so restricted in their ability to market to children on other marketplaces like, TV, like traditional TV. It's so stupid, because on the one hand, the restrictions that are being put on channels that create children's content are, from my point of view, on the FTC as opposed to on Google. Google shares a significant portion of the blame for pushing the boundaries and pushing the boundaries and going, FTC, you guys ever gonna stop us from doing this? Yeah, eventually they're going to. Of course they're going to. So the fact that it came down so hard, I think, is because YouTube was so brazen for so many years about these regulations. I don't think this has anything to do with inappropriate content for kids, because it's already handled by the YouTube Kids app. And if parents are using the YouTube platform the way that Google actually does intend for it to be used, theoretically, they actually cannot access it. On my children's phones, I can very easily restrict their access to the youtube.com website in Chrome. And there is absolutely no way, even for me as a tech head, to install the YouTube app once the primary user account is an under 13. So really what this is closing loopholes that probably should never have existed. And I'm going to say something very unpopular, because quite frankly, this isn't my show, and I don't think anyone even watches this. I'm going to say something very unpopular, and I'm going to say, as someone who makes a living out of creating what I believe is high-quality, mature audience-oriented content, and people can debate that for days, but I have the analytics numbers to back it up. My audience is not kids. I'm kind of glad that it's not as simple as some Eastern European content mill pumping out videos of unboxing Kinder Surprise eggs with flashy animations and calming music, racking up millions upon millions of dollars of AdSense revenue that, quite frankly, could go to much of the unfilled inventory that's sitting in my account. I actually put effort into making content. And we have, it's funny, we've actually talked many times over the years about branching out into kids' content because, as far as we can tell, it's the easiest, stupidest possible thing. And I realize what I'm saying is going to be extraordinarily unpopular in the YouTuber community. And I also think that some of the restrictions are extremely
Restrictive?
restrictive. But I also understand why they're restricted. You can't have the community posts feature for much the same reason that YouTube removed features years ago, like the ability to put your own banner at the top of your channel. I used that as a paid advertising spot back in the day. I forget, I think I charged like $500 a month for a brand partner to have their branding up there so that anyone who went onto my YouTube channel page could make revenue for me, and I could just, reverse engineer what approximately the impressions were and create a CPM that was sort of based on how many people I would expect over the coming couple months, and I'd sell that space. And so to imagine for a second that creators out there are not savvy enough to take advantage of something like community posts to send targeted ads to their underage audiences is, it's asinine. It's naive. And the reality of it is, now here we can talk about your good players and your bad players. There are going to be a lot of people out there who would not have abused that feature. And they're getting slapped with the same restrictions that other creators who would have abused it are as well. And that sucks. That totally sucks. But the YouTube way is and has always been, when a new regulation comes in, particularly a $170 million regulation, okay, turn off everything and then slowly feature creep back when we've determined that it is safe. That has always been the way that they've done it. And so there is going to be a period of pain for the people that would have used the features correctly. And I guess that's just part of the nature of, building your ship in someone else's lake. Like, the reality of it is, I would be saying the same thing if something restrictive was being done to limit my channel. I would be outraged because YouTube is doing their usual bloody thing where they just turn off everything for everyone, safety first, and then, to hell with everyone who is negatively affected in the meantime. I'd be outraged about that. But at the end of the day, it's not to anyone's benefit if YouTube is taking $100+ million fines every other month, and all of a sudden it is no longer financially viable for Google to keep it going, and we all have our livelihoods completely turned off. So what would you have us do? I guess would be, what's your solution?
From the Google perspective, if you want to look at it from their business standpoint, I think they're trying to do everything they can so that when they go into a court of law and they have to argue, they can say, look, we did everything we could to remain in compliance. We put this burden on the creator, XYZ. That's why when people are asking, like, hey, how can I talk to Google about this and figure out what I need to do for my channel? Because
consider it from a PR perspective.
Yeah. So their response has been to consult a lawyer, which is a limited helpfulness for certain people.
So if Google left it up to their millions upon millions of creators to comply with this and report it all correctly, and they gave them all the features that they could potentially abuse, the first headline about a creator getting fined, what is the fine? I think it's $42,000. Is that correct?
For what?
FTC can potentially levy significant fines against individuals who
let me bring it
violate the rules.
Yeah, per infraction is $41,484 per privacy violation per child.
Oh
my God. So you're talking millions upon millions of dollars.
So the first time a YouTuber,
you can tell how many of your views were children,
who makes very kid-oriented content, puts up a community post that's like, hey, Tide Pods are delicious, whatever, go check them out, #sponsored, and gets a, $287 billion fine, or whatever 5 million kids times $41,000 is. that's going to reflect negatively on YouTube in the public eye and this is YouTube's own bed. They made it. They got to sleep in it because the negativity towards YouTube is so deeply rooted now. If I were
building for a while,
if I were them, I would turn it off rather than risk that headline, and then I would try to give it back when I knew for sure it was safe. And I'm not saying that that's going to be a good thing that people want to hear. And this is going to be devastating for many creators who focus on kid-oriented content. But like at the end of the day, here's another thing that people need to understand is the views on there's nowhere in here that says that YouTube is turning off their recommended algorithm for kids-oriented content, where they know that the viewer is a kid, and they do know. I mean, that's why the FTC was able to fine them, because they were running around telling brands, yeah, we know kids are watching it, but it's a bang, 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 Wild West. So
they're no longer allowed to target ads at children based on cookies or data.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about ads. I'm talking about targeting videos. Algorithmically, kids can still watch the videos, and those advertisers that are trying to target kids with ads are still going to have to spend money somewhere. So yeah, you are still going to be able to buy ads on kid-oriented content. The thing you will not be able to do, and this is my understanding, so guys, I could be wrong about this, but I think the thing you are not going to be able to do is target specifically boys age 6 to 9, for example.
So probably kids is just going to be kids.
In general.
So what's going to happen then is the CPMs are probably going to go down, because part of YouTube's value add in their bid-based, their auction-based advertising system is that you can highly target the ads. So yeah, the CPMs are probably going to go down, but let's not make this out to be something that it isn't. It isn't kids creators no longer receiving any money. That's not what it is.
Might be receiving less money.
Yes, almost definitely
possibly significantly less.
100% less money. But we also don't know how much less yet, and I'm going to be really interested to see that over the coming weeks. I mean, it's very easy for me to say, of course, but
I don't think there's any simple answer to this. It gets into areas of children regulation. I don't want to get any more detail than that, but it's hard to say how this should be handled. What's the right way?
There's no easy solution
that this should be handled, because I feel like on one side you have, again, just sort of the open, hey, anyone can upload content to this platform.
That was never going to last.
And that's never going to last. Eventually there will be something, because it's kind of human nature that someone's going to go on there and be like, I'm going to start posting stuff videos or whatever like
here's
that.
Here's a question.
So,
let's let Kyle talk, because you've said absolutely nothing on this. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is this the beginning of the end for YouTube? Is that what we're witnessing right now? The slow,
I don't think so.
The slow chipping away at the features that made the platform dominant.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's kind of like you were briefly mentioning this earlier today. It's sort of the same thing with content creators nowadays that are involved or wrapped up in scandals. People just forget so quickly. Now, obviously, there's the whole issue of the law being involved here with Google and YouTube. That adds a whole other layer of complexity. But I also feel like YouTube is just still so big, and people are quick to forget any of the wrong that it does, because there's really no great alternative right now. There's not even a decent alternative right now. And I feel like people saying it's the beginning of the end of YouTube, they've been saying that for years and years and years. Anytime something like this creeps up, because this isn't the first time there's been something so controversial with YouTube.
We joke that YouTube is Floatplane's PR department.
Yeah.
They seem to be determined to make us look good.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. As much as I want it to sort of be the end of YouTube in a way, which is a bold thing to say when my livelihood is affected by it. What I kind of want that to mean is, I want this to sort of light a fire under Google's ass, so that they actually improve their platform where it can be improved upon, because I see a lot of the cracks, and a lot of things are coming up through those cracks, and it just seems like they have this sort of power trip because they are the only one and they're not a force to be reckoned with. There's no competition right now. It's kind of like when Intel was on top and AMD Ryzen was nowhere to be found. We were kind of all just at the mercy of this one company. And so I feel like we just need some We need Google to be like, make Google great again, if they ever were great at any point.
I'd like if they went back to "Don't be evil."
Don't be evil,
I
was
always
good.
appreciated that. As
Even
an
even
unofficial
try not to
official.
be evil.
Yeah.
Would be okay.
Just try.
Make
As
your
long
best
as you're
effort
trying.
to
Yeah.
avoid evil
Try not to
whenever
be evil.
possible.
Right. Instead of, like you
Unless-
said,
unless
rubbing
it
it in
makes us
people's
more money.
faces, how they're like sort of dancing around all these issues and dancing around
Yeah.
like their shit doesn't stink.
Yeah.
Um,
So I don't blame
Made a
the
lot of sense
FTC
there.
for this.
Wait,
Well, can't you?
before
can't blame
before
anyone.
we
Yeah.
before we get into that, I think we've run out the timer on my half.
Okay, we can
so,
continue on mine.
We're going to continue Kyle's half of the show. If you're watching on YouTube, it's linked in the description. If you're watching on Twitch, just stay right where you are. We will continue discussing. It's going to be real similar to the stuff you just watched right now. Thanks, everyone. Thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video. We'll be back soon.
I'm gonna